Hello, where is my picture? Oh, okay.
I hope so. Hi, how are you?
Are you Jill?
Yes, I am. Nice
Hi,
to meet
Jill.
you.
I was curious if you have the list of the people who signed up.
I do on our registration page. How would you?
Just to have an idea if it is, people I know or my friends that came, or if there
Oh,
are people.
well, right now I just see there's about 4 people in the waiting room named Debbie, Mary, Sandy. Don't know so far. I can send you a list after.
Okay.
I want to make you the co-host. Get
Okay.
this
So if
going.
somehow we get disconnected, I can continue on my own.
Yep.
Now, can you save the chat, or shall I try to save it before we close? Just to have, if people put anything that might be of interest.
Right. Yep.
So
So
that,
right, we can have it in the chat. And if you want, I can try to keep track of the questions for after.
yeah, what I was thinking, either they can ask them directly when, I think it would flow better if I can just do my presentation without interruptions. And then, I mean, if they want to put it in the chat so they don't forget it, or if they want to save it and ask it in person.
Yep.
We could do both ways, right?
Yep. I think that's a good plan. So when I, let people come in,
do you have the little blurb I sent to Jessica? But I had sent her recently an email with just a little introduction, not the same thing that was in the program description.
I don't think she shared that with me. Let me double check if she emailed it to me. Well, no, I have.
How can I could send it to you in the chat?
Sure. I'll do that.
Privately, right?
Yep.
Now, where do I find you? No, I lost it here. Okay.
Right on the bottom.
Chat, and I send, instead of everyone, I just say to Chelmsford Library.
Right.
And then I paste it. Is that it came through, right?
I don't see it yet.
Okay. There's direct message to Chelmsford Library.
Right. Yeah, it's weird. I should see it.
Where else can I send it?
I mean, you can email it to me.
Okay.
But I should be able to see it if you sent it in the chat. That's
It
strange.
says Chelmsford Library direct message.
Yeah.
Or waiting room participant, everyone in meeting. Do I want to do everyone in meeting?
You could do everyone. I'm not sure why it wouldn't show up to just me, but.
Did it come through now?
No.
Oh, so maybe I should send you an email.
Maybe.
Okay, so if you give me your
It's just J Kenny Kenny at chelmsfordlibrary.org.
At chelmsfordlibrary.org. All right, and then I have to paste it. Okay. A subject. Oh, and my last name was misspelled and I did it, so it's my fault.
Well, I'm glad it was you and not us.
So I'm going to cancel it from the chat.
Okay. Yeah, I still don't see it, so.
Or shall we wait until you get it in your email?
Sure. Let's see. Well, I still don't see it yet, but.
Oh my, maybe I'll read it myself.
Maybe you should. Oh my goodness, that's a little bit silly. I wonder if the chat participant can chat with host and co-hosts, maybe.
Did you open the chat?
Yeah, it's open. I mean, I can,
And it doesn't show anything.
no.
All right. So I don't know what.
Can you can see that, right? To
Okay,
everyone.
now it says here is the chat for comments.
Yeah, that I typed that, but I don't
Okay,
see.
so then can I reply to that?
Yeah,
Or do
everyone will see it, but that's fine, right?
yeah. So, but now how do I send it?
You can, you should just have that little, you can hit enter and just, like I just typed it and hit enter and it sends it when you're typing in the chat, or you can, there should be a little send button.
See messages. The thing is that I am in the chat right now, so I don't know what.
Oh, there it is. Got it.
Or maybe I had not sent it.
Oh, maybe. Yeah, because this one's directly to me. So that's great.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Perfect. Okay. Are you going to be sharing your screen with anything?
Yes. So
Okay.
here I am. Oops. I need to open my PowerPoint.
And then at the bottom of the Zoom, do you see that's the little button that says share screen?
Okay, hold on. Let me close the things that I'm not using, otherwise I have too many things. Okay, more. Share screen. Here I am. Share.
Yeah.
Then I'll go to slideshow.
Yep. Perfect.
So now is it, wait a minute. I'm sharing my screen now.
Yes.
Strange that it still shows me all my slides on the left side.
Right. So what you can do is there's a button where you can say
Slideshow from beginning. Okay, here it is.
there you go. Okay. Do you want to leave it?
I was still in the working mode, I guess. That's why. Okay.
Oh, okay. All right. So do you want me to let people in and
let them in. Let's see if they showed up. Thank you.
You're welcome. And then what I'll do is I'll introduce you and then you can start going. And
Very good.
All right. So here we go. We're letting everybody in. And they're coming in muted, which is fine. So we can introduce what's going on and let them start to come in a few more minutes. I'll start the program. Or just letting everybody come in and attach themselves to the sound and let everybody in. So let's see. All right. And it's pronounced Giancarlo, right? And is it Kalpis?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right, well, let's get started. My name is Jill Kenny from the Chelmsford Public Library, and we want to welcome Giancarlo Kalpis to talking about her program here at Pollination Preservation Garden at Sunny Meadow Farm. From an early age, Giancarlo developed a love for growing plants when visiting the gardens that her grandmothers and aunts kept. Giancarlo is a retired math and science teacher. She's affectionately known as the Bluebird Lady because of the work she has done for over 3 decades for eastern bluebird, Cialis conservation. She loves spending time outdoors and is eager to share what she has learned about native pollinators at risk and what we can do to restore pollination systems. Please welcome Giancarlo.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. I'm so happy to see some familiar faces, some friends, and probably some new faces. So thank you very much. And I hope you enjoyed this presentation and come away with some ideas for what can be done in the spaces that we garden. So I want to tell you that this is a plant. It's a native rose that we have planted in the garden at Sunny Meadow Farm, and it was very well visited by the pollinators. So first of all, I want to give you a disclaimer. I'm not an expert. I'm not a scientist. I'm just a person that is nuts about helping nature and saving the world. As a proof of that, I will share that for over 3 decades, I have worked in Chelmsford for the conservation of the native bluebirds. Here you see a picture that my husband took in our yard. There is the father bluebird and the young ones almost ready to fly out of the nest. I have kept track of how many babies bluebirds have fledged from all the birdhouses that I maintain around town, and I'm pretty close to 3,000. And I'm telling myself, if I am still able to do it next year, maybe we will go to 3,000. And before you ask, I do have a PowerPoint presentation on the bluebirds, if you're interested. Now here, more recently, exactly 2 years ago, I became aware that there are native bees and butterflies that are really in danger. They're very close to becoming extinct, some of them. And here we have the example of a bumblebee called Bombus fervidus visiting the wild bergamot. We have a monarch butterfly visiting the jopai weed, and we have a butterfly called, I have to look it up, I never remember the name, gray hair streak, visiting a daisy fleabane. So when I found out that this was happening, and going back to the bluebirds, I found out at the time that what was needed for people to put up birdhouses for the bluebirds. And this time I found out that what was needed on our part was to plant these specific native plants. So I said, well, I can grow plants. I'm going to plant a garden. So the first place I thought about was the farm just down the street from us, the Sunny Meadow Farm, that I was very familiar with because I have been renting a little plot in the community garden. And as you can see from the aerial picture, this farm is about 20 acres and is a patchwork of many different activities. Several small farmers are leasing land from the town. There are some open spaces where the public can walk and stroll around. There is a library story walk. And so I started to think if I could have permission, and here where I'm pointing now, there was some plot that was not very well tended. I asked the person who is the leader of the Chelmsford Open Space Stewards if he could let me use some of that space for the purpose of planting native plants for at-risk pollinators. And he said, sure, why not? And so he trusted me and we started. So before we go into explanation of why, I want to remind you that Chelmsford here at the top of this triangular shape is part of the Sudbury Valley, Sudbury, Assabet, and Concord River Valley. So the watershed, this is where all the rain flows down through the Assabet, the Sudbury, who join eventually into Concord Center, form the Concord River that flows into the Merrimack River that flows into the Atlantic Ocean. I was curious why there is a darker marker line, and I discovered that this darker part is nominated as a wild and scenic river for the qualities of that area. So in this watershed, there is an organization called the Sudbury Valley Trustee, which is a regional land trust, and they're cooperating with different organizations, governmental and other conservation group, to acquire more land and to work for conservation. And they have this initiative called the Native Pollinator Task Force, which is trying to spread the message of the need to plant native plants for the pollinators. And for that purpose, they're encouraging people, they're hoping to have a public display pollination garden like the one we have in Chelmsford in every one of the 36 towns and communities in the watershed. We still have some work to do. I think at the moment we have about 9 public display gardens. And so that is part of what I'm doing, trying to spread the message for the need to plant more of these plants. So our hero in the whole story is Dr. Jigia, who is a professor at UMass Dartmouth, and he has studied native bees for a few decades. And he has done and still doing research of what is needed to save some of these pollinators that are at the brink of extinction. So as I was planning my presentation, I sent him an email asking if I could use some of the pictures from his website. And he said, of course. He replied, of course. And in fact, he said, I have some slides you can borrow if you want to. And so he did send me some of the slides that I have included today. Sorry, I have to drink a lot because I'm thirsty. So, and the title of his presentation says a lot, more than just the buzz. And the point is this, that you might have, say, a rosa multiflora rose, which is a non-native invasive shrub, and it might be covered with non-native bees, say the honeybees, and you might feel good about yourself and think that you're doing great for the environment, but that is not the case. So we need to have native plants to help the native bees and other pollinators. One misconception that people have is that whenever they see an animal on a flower, they assume that it is a pollinator. That animal might just be a visitor. It might, for instance, suppose a butterfly is coming for a sip of nectar and goes away. It is not, may not be actually pollinated. There is a specific requirement for an animal to be called a pollinator. So what is pollination? Pollination is when the pollen from the male part of the flower is moved, whether by the wind or the rain or an animal that comes and visits. The pollen is moved from the male part of the flower to the female part of the flower. And when that happens, then the ovule in the ovary is fertilized and then develops the seed, the fruit, and then from that seed, if it has the right conditions, will germinate and we get new plants. So only when this happens, the flower visitor can be called a pollinator. Here on the right side, we have a picture of a blue lobelia. And let's assume that a bumblebee comes, picks up some pollen from this flower, then jumps to another flower on the same plant, deposits a pollen on the other flower. That would be a pollination on the same plant. Or the bee might pick up pollen from the plant on the left, fly over to the same species on another plant, and that would also cause pollination. If the bee instead flies from the blue lobelia to the white spirea, that would be a loss of pollen because the pollen from the lobelia and the white spirea would be useless. And in fact, it would damage the possibility for that particular white flower to become later pollinated by its own kind. So when the professor talks about pollination systems, he means a pair, and the pair is composed of a plant and the animal that pollinates it. And so, and over the millennia and the millennia of, thousands and millions of years, animals and plants have developed certain relationships. So certain bees or butterflies prefer to nectar on certain plants, or prefer to collect the pollen from certain plants. And for butterflies, besides nectar, they are also in need of what is called host plants. And host plants, I like to think about it as the baby food for the next generation. The mother, the female butterfly, knows on which plant to lay the eggs, because she knows that is the only kind of food that the baby, that the young caterpillars will develop on. And if the host plants are not available, we will not have the next generation of butterflies or moths. So why are these native pollination systems so important? Now, this is a slide provided by Dr. Jigia, but I was looking online for food webs, and every food web I found for every different region, they do show the plants and the animal, but they don't show the pollination systems. So what's happening? The sun gives the energy to the plants, and with that energy, the plants grow. But if they're not pollinated, we will not have more plants, and we will not have the seeds and the fruit that will feed the vegetarian animals, the herbivores. And if they don't have that, then there will be no food for the organisms higher up in the web, the carnivores. So that is why the importance of this native pollination system. If we lose that base of the native pollinations at the bottom of every food web, the food web will collapse. And we are part of the food web. So that would affect us humans as well. So we all have heard about the decline in pollinations, and that is true, but it's not true of all the species. In Massachusetts, there are some species of bumblebees that have greatly increased over the years. The blue lines in the bar graph represent pre-2000, and the yellow in more recent years. So we see, for instance, the impatiens, the bombus impatiens, which is the most common bumblebee in our area. Look how much it has increased in numbers. On the other hand, some of these bumblebees don't have any left. This one here, the first one on the left, Bombus affinis, there are no records in Massachusetts at the moment. Bombus fervidus, there is still very little left. And Bombus vagans is less than half than it used to be in historical records. So in our region, the Bombus fervidus and the Bombus vagans are the ones that we're concentrating and planting plants specifically to help them. And here again, for butterflies in New England, there are some that are decreasing, unfortunately, but some are increasing. So what is causing this difference? Why aren't they all decreasing? And that has to do with this relationship that we talked about, relationship between the plant and the pollinator, and it has to do with the anatomy of the bumblebees, for instance, whether they have a short tongue or a long tongue, and what flower they can have, and what flower they can feed on. So what do bumblebees need to survive? They need pollen, which they usually gather to feed their babies, their larvae. And then, so when we plant a garden like this, we need to think that we need to have a supply of pollen from March, which is when the willow starts to bloom, until through the summer with the roses, the flowering raspberry, and then later meadowsweet. These are just some of the examples. And I have all of these in the garden in Sunny Meadow. You will notice that next to willow, it says male. The willows are type of plants that they have all the male plants, all the male flowers are in one shrub, and all the female plants are in the other shrub. So if an animal, a bumblebee goes to the male plant, it will only collect pollen. And then it will have to fly to another shrub, to the female, if there is one nearby, and cause the pollination. For nectar sources, the bumblebees use it for themselves. It's a fuel, it's just sugar water with also some minerals and other elements. And again, we need to plant a variety of flowers, different ones with different shapes, with a long tube, with not a long tube, but to cover the whole season that the bees are active, from March to October. So Dr. Jigia, like I said, has been studying the bumblebees or other bees in general for at least 3 decades. And he also has graduate students that help him in his research. So this graduate student, Ms. Monroe, has collected this data that some of the butterflies don't visit a lot of flowers with long tubes. The middle one, little grass wing, only 50%, but the silver-spotted skipper almost exclusively visits long tube flowers. So if we don't have long tube flowers in our gardens, the silver-spotted skipper will have nothing to eat. For the butterflies, so here, for butterflies, the need of the butterflies is for nectar, which is for themselves, and for host plants for the next generation. So for the eastern tail blue, 100% of flowers that they visit are in the pea or bean family, and they are also the host plant where the mother lays the eggs. For the great spangled fritillary, the host plant is the violets. There are different kinds of violets. And also they forage completely, 100% of non-native plants. And the example of the 2 moths, almost 100% of the flowers they visit have a long tube. And the hosts are the native honeysuckle and snowberry. So we're getting the idea that what is needed in our garden is native plants, and specifically from that list that has been compiled with the data collected by these scientists. And some of these flowers are really phenomenal, like the Monarda fistulosa helps a lot of species, 14 species, 5 of which are declining and of concern. And the Prunella vulgaris serves or feeds 6 native species, 3 of which are of concern. This is the most amazing tool, and I have used this for deciding which plants to put in my garden. So here you will see, so Bombus fervidus and Bombus vagans are the 2 bumblebees that are at risk of becoming extinct here in Massachusetts. Here we have the list of plants, in this case, pollen sources. So we need to provide pollen starting in March. So I look here, which plant blooms in March? The pussy willow. So I need to plant the pussy willow in my garden, and I will have pollen in March and April. After that, I need to find some other plant, for instance, either another kind of willow, or below here, there are other plants that I cannot scroll now because this is just a picture. Other plants to cover. Then later, we have the various roses, and then later the St. John's worts. The chart also gives you the soil condition and the sun condition that the plants require. So this is the best tool to use for planning a garden. Later on, there is a list of the nectar sources, host plants for the butterflies, and this is all specific for Massachusetts. So these are the plants that we should choose from when planting a pollinator garden. And so after the data and the information is collected, Dr. Jugia has promoted the planting of different gardens. The first one on the left is at Dartmouth, where he teaches at Dartmouth College, and we had kind of an abandoned field that now has been planted with these plants from his list. And here in Southborough, it's called the Beecology Garden, because that is where they do a lot of their observations. And of course here, the garden had just been planted. It doesn't look like this now. It's full and fully grown and spreading. They have enlarged it too. So after a year of planting the right plants, they did find this is the Bombus vagans with half black and half yellow abdomen. And this is the Bombus fervidus with the full yellow abdomen. And you'll just have to wait and see if we are so successful here in Chelmsford. So besides providing the nectar sources and pollen sources and host plants, we also need to think about what these insects need for overwintering and for breeding, for nesting. So where do they where do they lay their eggs, and where do they spend the winter? So here we can see that a pile of rotting logs is very beneficial. That is where a butterfly like the mourning cloak would overwinter. And this is where the queen Bombus fervidus would overwinter. Some other ones spend the winter wrapped up in a little blanket of leaves or inside a cut stem of a plant that has been left standing. And other ones, like this is, when I first saw it, I thought it was a monarch butterfly, but it is a viceroy butterfly. It's a monarch mimic. It has this extra line here that gives it away. It's not a monarch. This one overwinters here in the soil, and the same for, so we need to have some areas of the garden that are bare, and many times they nest in abandoned rodent tunnels, like a little mouse tunnel. Here we see a picture of the bumblebee visiting a plant of St. John's wort, and obviously the pollination has occurred because the plant produced seeds, which then fed this beautiful bird, a white-throated sparrows. And I've had the same experience in the garden here at Sunny Meadow. So what does this have to do with anything? As I was thinking about the different anatomy of the various pollinators, I remember this fable that was in a book that I used to read to my children when they were little. And the story goes like this. The fox and the stork were neighbors. And the fox invited the stork to come for lunch. She served a delicious soup in shallow bowls. And immediately the fox went about having lunch and lapped up the whole soup. Delicious it was. But the stork, given the long beak, was not able to eat any of it and went hungry. Well, the stork got her revenge. She invited the fox for lunch another day and served a delicious, so aromatic stew in bottles with long necks. Well, this time, the stork had a delicious meal, but the fox was unable to eat and went hungry. So think of the fox and the stork when you think about what flowers to put in the garden and which bumblebees you're trying to have. There are bumblebees with long tongues, bumblebee with short tongues, and so we want to be able to offer a menu for everybody. So now we're done with the why. After watching the presentation of Dr. Jigia, I was really enthusiastic about planting a garden here in Chelmsford for the native, with the native plants and to help the native pollinators. So a lot of work was needed. And this is when this picture was taken last summer when we had already planted it and fenced it in. A lot of people were involved with the process. So here we have, on the left, you see, just before any work was started, there were dry plants. And there was a very special person, a local contractor. He pulled out the dry grasses. He tilled it. He brought in a load of compost. And then he helped with the installation of the fence. Not only that, on planting day, when complete strangers showed up to help me plant, he brought in his big toys and he helped with making the planting holes for the shrubs. The soil was kind of compacted, and when he saw that we were struggling doing it with hand tools, he came prepared. So thank you to this special helper. As far as the cost, the initial cost of the plants and the fencing, that was a grant that was provided by the Conservation Land Trust, and I really appreciate that support. Well, and things started rolling almost immediately. Soon after we made the initial installation, another plot became available. So we enlarged the fencing. There was a group during the summer of 21, a group of youth from a local church. They came, we put up the fence, they helped spread the mulch in the path, the wood chips, and here it is the whole, or some of them, posing when the fencing was completed. Then there was another plot that was abandoned, and I said to Phil, well, can I have that too? And he said, sure. And we fenced this section here too. And I'm so proud of these girls. They were so happy to be trusted with the power tools. They really enjoyed it. So about a year ago, I decided to collect some of the seeds because, like I said, seeds give us new plants. So I collected and cleaned them, put them in packets. So I was able to share them, offer them to people here in the town. And I also planted some myself. And this one is called the winter sow method. You plant the seeds in milk jugs. There's a procedure to it. It's not very hard. And you let them grow through the winter time, because since these plants are native, they have evolved with our climate where we have freezing and thawing alternating. So many plants will not germinate unless they have, which is called stratification, which is alternation of freezing and thawing temperatures. Well, after all those milk jugs, I had a lot of plants, and some I offered to people that were willing to adopt them, and the rest I planted in the next garden that we put up. I just cannot stop planting gardens. So this summer, several groups came to help. One group came to help, they helped to put up the post, and then the next group came and helped put up the fence. And then this is Chris, one of the Chelmsford Open Space volunteers. He built me yet one more gate. And this is the third garden with all those babies that I had in my driveway. I planted about 300 in this new space. Well, do you think I'm happy with that? Well, not yet. We're still expanding. I'll show you here this picture. I'm guessing it was taken about last summer, summer 21. And as you can see, this is a proof from the satellite. If you spend enough time in one place, your car will get caught in the satellite picture. Here is my car. So this is the first garden. This is a garden that we started in the summer of 21. Here, it's not the the garden yet, but the area is this one here that was fenced in and planted this year. And then recently we added this more section. So as of now, we have 3 large rectangles fenced in, and I just added up the square feet. It's about 4,000 square feet of native garden. So this young man offered to rototill, and then a miracle happened. I was planning to put up the fence next summer in my mind. I had it all figured out. Next summer, 23, when the group of youth is available again, hopefully I was going to ask them to help put up this fence. But a few weeks ago, just by accident, I bumped into a kind gentleman he saw me struggling. I was moving some bags of cow manure for my community garden, the vegetable plot. He said, "Oh, can I help you?" Very kindly helped me move the bags. And then he said, "Look, I'm available." He saw this old lady, said, "Oh, she's crazy." So he was very kind and offered to help me. He said, "If you need help with anything else, let me know." I said, "Well, sure, thank you." And we exchanged phone numbers. But sure enough, after a while, I thought to myself, well, why do I need to wait until next summer to put in this fence? Let me ask him if he's available. Well, he was available. So we made the appointment one Saturday morning, and he showed up, and he brought 2 friends. And here they are, the 3 of them, after they had completed putting up the fence. So I'm just in awe and amazed at the generosity of people donating their time and their equipment, their expertise. Is just amazing. I have, well, let me go back. I don't have an exact count of how many people have helped to make this project possible, but just counting approximately, it's at least 200 volunteers that have helped in various ways to make this project. So this summer was very enjoyable. I had the opportunity to meet a lot of children. Here we have the 2nd graders from Byam School. They came on the first field trip, and they enjoyed very much learning about the flowers and the pollinators. Then there was a troop of Boy Scouts that spent an evening there camping at the farm, and they asked me to come and tell them about the Pollinator garden. And here is me again with my Jane Goodall uniform, telling them about it. And when it was time to go planting, some of them already knew where the garden was because they had come in as 2nd graders with the field trip, and they were running eager to help planting the plants. Each child got the plant and they put it in the ground. And a very rewarding experience I had maybe a month or 2 later, they are doing some weeding or watering, whatever. And a young family came strolling around the garden, and the boy was telling the mother, "Oh, I think that is the one I planted." So that was very rewarding for me to see that the children are learning and they have an interest. Another opportunity I had was I was asked to be interviewed by the middle schoolers who were taking a summer camp with the Chancellor Telemedia, and they interviewed me about pollinators. They asked very good questions. You know, what are pollinators and why is this important? And that program is available on YouTube. So last year, some of the plants bloomed. Some were still very young and they didn't bloom. But this year, all the plants bloomed at the right time, and we had coverage throughout the growing season. So here we have, and you can see that native plants are beautiful. You don't need to buy plants from Europe or Asia to have pretty plants in your garden. Let's put native plants that support the native pollinators. So we have the steeple bush, we have the prunella, this is a rose milkweed, this is a monkey flower, and this is a bee balm. And this is an overall view of the garden where you can see the difference in growth from the picture I showed you in the beginning when we had, that was the summer of 21, and this is the summer of 22. And really, everything was amazing, growing and spreading. And look at this thistle. It was so tall, about 6 or 7 feet tall. It was covered with bumblebees, and then butterflies of different species came along. The hummingbird came, hummingbird moth, and then finally the goldfinches were coming to eat the seeds. So we had proof that the flowers were pollinated because they produce seeds. Now, were you wondering if we got those rare bumblebees? Well, I have proof. Here we have on the lupin. I was so shocked and surprised when I saw it, and I wasn't sure about it. And I said, but could it be? Is it really the Bombus fervidus, that very rare bumblebee that has become so hard to find? And it came just about a year after we planted these plants. And more recently here in the fall, it was a cold morning. So the bumblebee was barely moving because it was still 9 in the morning in October. It was cold. And this is a Bombus vagans. And there is a chance that it is a queen. And if that is the case, it is probably going into hibernation now. Maybe next year we'll have a brood of new ones. This is an example of places where these public display native pollinations gardens have been planted. We have the library in Southborough, where it was just being put in. We have the Breakneck Hill conservation land in Southborough, so both Southborough pictures, and then Lincoln, a private school, and of course us. We are part of this movement to help spread this message. So as homeowners or as renters who have a small space where we can do planting, what can we plant? Shall we just put a big lawn, which is just big green desert that is just for looks and for status symbol? Or do we want to have an ecosystem, a habitat? So what I have done here at home, every year I shrink the lawn. I take a little bit more into the flower beds. I've been removing invasives for years. I have been planting native plants already for a decade or more, but in the last couple of years, when I learned about the at-risk pollinators, I've been making room and choosing plants from Dr. Jigia's list. And when you go to buy plants, be very careful when you go to a plant store, to one of the regular nurseries, because most of the plants they sell are not native. And some of those that they sell labeled native are not really straight species. And so they're not the best. For their chemistry is different, and they're not the best choice for the native bees. And of course, if you use pesticides, you're going to kill everything. So avoid all the sides. And let nature come back in your yard. Let, keep, if you have dry branches or dry trees that are not a hazard to you or to your building, that can be a nesting cavity for a bird. Keep the plants like in the fall. Don't get crazy with cleaning the leaves and cutting the stems. If you leave the stems on the plants, they are going to be bird feeders for your birds. You don't need to put bird seed out in feeders. And the leaves can be the nesting or the hibernating sites for insects, from different moths, etc. So be a lazy gardener. Let your garden go wild. So many times when I'm down at the garden working or taking videos of what I see or pictures, somebody will see a goldenrod blooming and they said, oh, I'm allergic to goldenrod. And I said, no, it's impossible. You're not. And why is that? Because the pollen of goldenrod is heavy and sticky. It does not blow in the wind. It needs an animal to affect the pollination process. The real culprit of your allergies, if you have seasonal allergies, is more likely the ragweed, which is a not very noticeable flower, but has very light powdery pollen that blows in the wind and into your nostrils. So I have a lot of people to thank for the success so far of this garden, the Chelmsford Land Conservation Trust that supported us financially, the Chelmsford Open Space Stewards, and all the people, the troops, the scout troops, the church groups, any of the town residents who showed up to help. A total, like I said before, approximately over 200 people. Here, this is a showy goldenrod, does not cause allergies. And here on the right side, we have, these pictures were all taken in the garden. The caterpillar of the monarch butterfly eating the rose milkweed. And here you have the adult monarch on the tall giant hyssop. All right. You notice in this picture, this was taken this year in the fall. I have not cut any of the dry plants. They are going to be here all winter to provide hiding places, to provide food for the birds. I will cut them later on next spring after we have several days of warm weather, when I can be sure that if there are bees that overwintered in the stems, they have emerged. And I will not cut the stems all the way to the ground. I leave about 18 to 20 inches so that those stems will still be available later on, and they will decompose gradually with time. They will not bother anything. The plant will grow around them, and those stems will provide some support anyways. For the pictures that you have seen, those that were not taken with my cell phone, we came from Dr. Gigia, Freddie Gillespie, Jane Gruber Chevalier. My husband took some of them, Gary Phillips, and a lot of them from Phil Stanway, who posts them in their Facebook page and made them available. Dr. Gigia is my hero, my inspiration. I really admire the work he's doing. My friend Freddie Gillespie has been my mentor and supporting me along, encouraging me on this journey. And my husband, I'm sure that if you look at him carefully, you'll start to see a little halo. He has to have so much patience to put up with me and all my activities. So if you don't know where this garden is, it's at 168 Robin Hill Road in Chelmsford. You're welcome to come and visit anytime. If you want me to come with you and show you around, just let me know. I'm more than welcome to meet you there. And remember, Dr. Gigia's plant list and then the at-risk pollinators. Now, those plants are not easy to find. Like I said, the regular nurseries, garden centers don't carry, in general, these plants. I had to drive in all four directions to find the plants that I needed. Here I've listed a few, and then there are others of which I found out after the fact that they were selling these type of plants. Many times I just found out by word of mouth. So-and-so has has seeds, they have grown and they're selling them on this particular day. So sometimes you just have to be a little adventurous. Here you have I don't know if people are interested in seeing the complete plant list. We can go back to it if people later have questions about that. I can show you how to use that list. And this is the last slide. I really encourage you to read any of the books from Dr. Talamy that give us a lot of ideas on how we can help nature come back and recover from the current situation. So this is it on my side. And if you have any questions, I'm more than glad to answer them. You can unmute yourself and ask the questions, or if you want to write them in the chat, we can do it either way. Thank you.
Chair Chalice.
Yes, hi, Ed.
Hi, thank you for this nice presentation. And my question is this from Doug Talamy: why are the ecological stakes never been so high?
Well, because we are at the brink of a huge extinction of species. there are many species, both plants, insects, mammals, birds, a lot of species of birds that are at risk of extinction. So from my point of view, it's a moral issue to try not to let all these species go extinct. That is why I feel so strongly about it, and that is why that is why I planted the garden. That is why I'm trying to spread the news that we are really at the brink of a mass extinction caused by human activity. There are many causes for this current situation, but Ed, I'm telling my friends that I'm old. I don't have much more time here, but I'm worried about the younger people. They have the right to see and enjoy all the variety and biodiversity that we've had. Thank you for the question.
Thank you.
And let's see, is there somebody in the chat that any question in the chat? Okay, no, nobody. Okay, people, if you want to put your picture up and let me see who you are, you can unmute you and show your picture. Any other questions? Where is the library? All right.
Oh, are you able to share the slides?
I'll have to find out how to do it. I know that the program has been recorded.
Oh, okay.
I don't know when, but it should be available via the library. I don't know how to share the slides. I will have to check with the library if they tell me how to do it. But like I said, the recording will be available.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. I'm also interested in knowing, are people all people from Chelmsford, or are there people from other towns? If you want to.
I'm nearby. I'm from Andover.
Okay, welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm in Lowell. I work with your daughter, Laura, and she told me about your talk, so I joined.
Oh yes. Hi, Jen. Yes, you mentioned you and your son. Yes.
Yes, my son is here too watching.
So as far, according to the map, Lowell is also part of the Suasco watershed. So
Yes.
if you're interested in starting a public display pollination garden in Lowell, I'm willing to help you.
Yes, we were just talking about that. He works with an environmental group in Lowell.
Yeah.
And that's part of the Lowell Conservation Trust. So he's going to talk to them at his next meeting about it.
I'm in touch with them too. Yes.
So perfect.
Very good. I would be glad to cooperate with them.
Yes, that'd be great.
Very good. Thank you. And I see Mark and Pat. Hi, Mike from the garden. Well, I can wait a few more minutes if people think of any questions. I really wanted to show, okay, wait a minute. There's a question here. Do you have a list of nurses where we could shop? Yes, so if you go, let me go to the website. If you go in the Native Pollinator Task Force website, let me see if I can go back. How do I go back? No, I'm trying to go back where I have. How do I go back to the beginning? Oh, I have to do it slowly like this. So here, in this website, Sudbury Valley Trustee, you'll find all the information you need. You'll find recordings. Oh, is it working or not? It's not working. Here we go. If you Google Native Pollinator Task Force, you will find this website. And here, there is a place, there is a list. There is a list of or places where you can find, let's see, pollination, download. No, I don't see native pollination. I know there was a list of nurseries that have those plants. Come, I don't see it. Okay, where to purchase plants? And you'll have a list by plant or by nursery. Suppose I go here. If I say, I want to buy, okay, I want to buy purple giant hyssop. It tells you the list here on the right where these nurseries carry it. And probably, well, blue stem, you could drive to blue stem. The other ones, you would have to order them online and they will ship them to you. So here you have all the, the list of the stores where you can buy each of those plants. Or you can go by the list by the nursery. So suppose you say, oh, I'm going to, let's pick one. I'm going to Bigelow Nursery, which is Northborough. And these are all the native plants from Dr. Jagia's list that they have available. So you may have to do some driving and you may have to do some online shopping, or you may be able to find somebody who has seeds, who is willing to share them with you, and you get plants that way. Did I answer your question? Let's see, that was in the chat. Okay, I'll try to find out about the slides, how I can share them to the people who registered. All right.
Yeah,
Any
Giancarlo, you can probably share them with me and then I can share them with the people that registered.
So I can send you the whole PowerPoint?
Yep.
It would probably too large for an email, so I'll have to do it on what, Google Docs? How do I send it to you?
You can try to email it to me and then we can figure it out from there.
Okay, very good.
And I can send that to people in the next couple of days. So we
Okay,
can share it that way.
yes, thank you very much.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, so
That was
if
great.
you want, if people want to get in touch with me, how do you come to the garden? I'll be there. But well, shall I share my email?
Sure.
Okay.
You want to put it in the chat? People would have it right
Okay.
there. Yep. Does anybody have any questions that you want to ask in person? I see some people have unmuted, which is fine.
Okay, so here's my email.
Okay. Oh, that's to me. Okay.
Giancarlo,
Yes, hi Pat, Mark.
what's the purpose of putting the fence around the gardens? Is to keep deer out or what?
Well, we have a lot of deer, we have a lot of rabbits, and especially when the plants are young, they are a delicacy for those critters. And of course, they need to eat too, but I would rather they went and ate something else.
Yeah, someplace
else.
Okay.
I mean, the fence is really not deer proof because I understand it takes like at least 6 feet to keep a deer out.
Yeah.
But at least, let's say it's a deterrent. Okay,
Thank you.
you're welcome. Well, it was my pleasure to share with you something I'm very passionate about and start planting the right plants.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank
You're
you very much.
Thank you, Giancarlo.
Well, as far as fencing here at home in my home garden, I don't have a fence like that one, but I make circles. So I buy the same kind of fencing and I make cylinders, you know, to protect each individual plant or group of plants.
Yeah.
All right, thank you very much for attending. Thank you, everybody. And I'll see you in the garden.
Thank you, Giancarlo, for the presentation. That was wonderful. Thanks, everybody.
Thank
Look
you.
for more events on our events page. And have a great Sunday. Get outside. It's 75 degrees.
Yes.
It's so strange.
Frightening.
Bye-bye.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Yeah,
Bye.
the global warming. Yeah, bye-bye.
Bye.
Close it.
Just click on leave down here.